All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the show. We've got an exciting guest on today. We've got Mr. Jon Andersen, strongman wrestler, bodybuilder, wrote Deep Water. We're going to get into some mental toughness conversations today, nutrition, exercise. We're going to definitely have a blast.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
You got to keep moving. Let's keep moving. Let's go. Don't quit till you got nothing left.
You can either live your dreams or live your fears.
Because you'll have bad times, but that'll always wake you up to the good stuff you weren't paying attention to.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
From the Cancer Sucks Studios, you just tuned in to Life Lessons and Cancer Hope with Coach Steve. Listen, cancer ain't got nothing on me. Introducing an outstanding podcast where we discuss relatable life lessons, ambition, motivation, and perseverance. Welcome back to another episode.
So, Jon, thank you for coming on and taking the time to be here on this show.
I appreciate you having me on, brother. I'm excited. Well, I guess if you go back to the beginning, I was kind of that fat little boy that, keep in mind, I didn't have nothing happened to me. I wasn't molested. I wasn't beat up. I had a great childhood. I just had a mother who liked to cook for me. And I just became just this fat little boy. And it was really, in the beginning, you don't really realize what you're doing to yourself when you grab a gallon of ice cream and you sneak out of the house and you go eat the whole thing until you've created this sugar addiction that you can't control. You don't even know what it is. All you know is that the fact that you spotted a gallon of ice cream and that there's a possibility you could sneak out of the house and that's your goal for the day. Well, that was kind of me as a little guy. So basically, nice. What it did was it really crushed my self-esteem. It put me in I became my own worst enemy. I was picked on. I was overweight. I had a whopping learning disability, probably from all the sugar that I was eating. I still, as 49 years old, I still, have a whopping case of dyslexia. But keep in mind, all of the things I'm going to tell you, all the challenges I went through were the best things that ever happened to me. So anyway, getting picked on and having to, just to work my ass off, just to be able to have C's in school, just to be able to get on the playing field. This was my life. And, I struggled with a major self-esteem issue because I was, I was overweight. I wasn't accepted by the crowd. I was picked on. People would spit on my face in the bus. I'd get stacked on top of the lockers and cry like a little bitch. I mean, all the things that you could think of. I mean, granted, you look back now and you laugh about it, but we all know in those moments, you think it's the end of your life. But these were the things that I'm so blessed that happened to me because these are the things that made me me. So fast forward, I started to realize that I was better at lifting weights than I was in sports I was playing. And I fell in love with lifting weights, largely because I saw Conan the Barbarian for the first time. And I saw this big, strong guy. Nice. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger has affected so many people. Anyway, it was just something in my chest, something in my heart, something in my head just was different. And I can't really tell you what it was. The only thing I can tell you was that I knew what I wanted. And that was another one of my biggest blessings. So the two things that happened to me that were the best thing was I was forced to work harder just to be par. And then I was blessed with all of a sudden knowing what I wanted. So basically I start, lifting weights and I'm getting bigger and I'm getting stronger, but I'm still carrying it. Physically, I'm developing, but mentally I'm still seeing, this fat little boy and I still can't read worth a shit. Here's a great example. I get to college. I mean, physically now I've changed, but mentally I'm still the same. Mentally, even with my learning disabilities, still the same. So I go buy books my freshman year in college, and I can't read worth shit. It's this huge stack of books. So I grabbed the thinnest one, right? And I open it up and I read the first couple of pages and I'm like, I have no idea what I just read. So I read them again. I can read it. And I can actually, I could read it to you, but I couldn't retain the information. So I thought, holy shit, here we go. I have to figure out a way to get past this hurdle. Just like every other thing in my life, I've had to figure out a way because I was always doing things my own way because I couldn't do it the normal way. I go to each professor and I say, how much information is in the reading? And each one, like some of them said 20%, some said 40%. So the ones that said 20%, I thought, perfect. I don't have to do the reading. I can just really retain the information in the lectures and I'm going to be good to go. Others that said 40%, I had to find someone in class to help me understand what was in the books. But right there, this is the beginning of me right here. Problem solving. Because of the challenges, because of my shortcomings, I became a very good problem solver. And that was probably the turning point in my life where I realized, okay, yes, you can do this. You just have to find your own way down the path, which again was another blessing because, again, all of these things that seem like they're wrecking your life, they're the ones that actually are your biggest blessings. And so problem solving, I still can't read worth shit, but I found a way to deal with my shortcomings. Now, this brings me into what we're here to talk about, which is, me as an adult. So ultimately, I had, been training with weights, getting bigger and stronger. And I had one of those guys that I had been, overeating my whole life. So I had to develop a way of eating where I could overeat because I couldn't stop overeating. So how do I figure out a diet that I can overeat and get strong and not get fat so I can do what I want to do, which is to be this big, strong guy? Well, that was the very inception of my deep water method for the dieting portion, because I realized that I could eat this crazy amount of protein and not get fat. And I was getting strong as a house. I mean, so we're talking, I'm, in the early 20s. This is when I fully made the discovery. And I've been eating, in those days, 4 pounds was a lot, right? Well, I was eating 4 pounds of flesh every day. Now it's probably more like 6 or 7. But the point is that my dieting techniques were developed based upon my own personal shortcomings. Just like I figured out how to pass my classes because my personal shortcomings. So because I was experimenting, eating this huge amount of protein, I became this guy that was, very strong, stronger than I looked, which then brought me to my strongman career. So basically I was that guy later in college, 250 pounds, big guy, but I could go I could go put 500 pounds at a bench press and you go to a gym and bench press 500 pounds 3 or 4 times. This is blowing people's minds, because 250 pound guy's a big guy, but dropping 500 pounds on a bench press is a whole different deal. I put on, I put 4 or 5 on a squat bar, knock it off for 40 reps. And people are like, what is this guy doing? Well, again, my training technique was also developed on doing it my own way, So everything about me in my 3 careers, which we're going to get into, has to do with me using my shortcomings to develop my own strengths. And that, if there is a theme to my life, that is it.
I remember you saying on a podcast once, you mentioned something about like, you don't stand in line with everybody else, what they're doing, you kind of find your own way to make sure that, you can do it.
100%. And that goes back to, I wasn't accepted to stand in line with everybody in the beginning, to be like, hey, get out of here. You don't belong here. So I became one with standing in my own line when I was young. But then I started to realize that when I'm doing it, when I'm in my own line, I'm getting a lot fucking farther along than the people in the front of the other line. Yeah. And that's when I realized, okay, this waiting in line shit is for people that don't really want it, because I want it bad enough. I've been working hard my whole life and I've been solving problems to get here. And if I'm behind somebody, I'm only going to get as far as them. That's why I got out to the left or the right, so to speak. I do not stay. If there's a line, I'm going to avoid standing in that line. I'll make my own line. I don't give a shit if anybody's behind me, but I know the fact that my hard work and my ability to put everything I have into something is going to allow me to get further along. And that's kind of another philosophy I live by. But the thing about it is, you know, when you adapt these different perspectives mentally, you physically, your body will follow along. I mean, what people don't understand is your body is this crazy, intelligent, adapting creature. And whatever you put in front of it, it's going to figure out a way to adapt to it. You just have to have the mental strength to keep pushing it down that path. You know, it hurts. It's uncomfortable.
100%.
Yeah, all of these things are going to come into play, but you've got to realize it's, you know, it's not if, it's when. And you have to be able to get through those times. There are those times when you're just sure it's not going to work. And as soon as I hear myself say something like that, that's when I buckle down and I do it harder, because I know at that point I was getting close. My mind was getting close to veering to the wrong place, and I'll just swap myself. I'll do it extra hard to teach myself a lesson. I don't like to say punish myself.
Tough.
I don't like punish yourself's the wrong word. It's forcing yourself back into the right frame of mind. And so basically, here's a guy who, you know, became very strong through shortcomings, working hard and developing his own dieting practice. So now we're in the kind of mid-20s, and I'm strong as a house. I'm probably 270 pounds. And one of my buddy goes, he's like, wow, dude, you're so much stronger than you look. I've been your training partner for 10 years. I'm not even close as strong as you. Will you please go try one of these competitions? And I was like, well, Jesus, at that moment, I almost felt like if I didn't do it, I was letting the team down. Because keep in mind, physically, I was there. Mentally, I was still a fat little boy, you know? And so anyway, I went to my first strongman competition. No idea what I was doing. Won it. Met Willie Wessels. At the time, that was when all amateur strongman was won. And he was like, he saw me walk up. He's like, hey, you know, there's no bodybuilding competition here, you know, because I look like a bodybuilder, you know. And I said, no, I'm here to compete in strongman. He's all right, well, get on the scale. And I weighed in at like 272. So I was in the 275 pound class and won that competition. After the competition, I said, dude, you've never competed before. No, I've never heard of you, and I'm the president of this thing. You need to go to get your pro card. So that's what I did. I went and got about 3 months later, I won my pro card. About 3 months after that, I went to my first pro qualifier, qualified for nationals. So we're talking my fourth ever strongman contest. I'm competing in pro nationals. Wow. Now keep in mind, you're talking about a time when I've been watching this stuff on TV. So I'm watching Phil Pfister. I'm watching Carl Gillingham. I'm watching Mark Philippi. All of a sudden I show up to this competition and these dudes are there and I'm shitting in my pants. But again, you know, it's like I'm used to being, even though they were all very accepting, don't get me wrong. They were really cool. They were, you know, very helpful. But in my mind, I'm the odd man out. You know, they all know each other. I'm like the only new guy in the group. Everybody else has been to nationals before, you know? And so I just did what I normally did. I wasn't trying to follow anything. I was just going up and just blowing and just giving everything I had in every event. Anyway, I placed 8th. So 8th in the nation after 4 contests. Well, this is hands down a product of not following the leader. You know, it shows what you can do if you don't follow the status quo, because I guarantee you the guy in the front of that line in the status quo is not as mentally tough as you think he is. And if you're mentally tougher than the guy in the front of the line, you need to get the hell out of that line. So I had a great swimming career. I was international player, my 5th. So basically 4th contest was pro nationals. I placed 8th, which got me some international invites. So now I'm an international player. I won my first pro strongman contest at the end of my rookie season. Unfortunately, that was my only win, but I'll take it. Competed for 7 years total. Ended up having a back surgery and moving on. And so from there, I went and wrestled in Japan. How did that whole thing come about? I'll tell you, because I didn't see it coming either. So at that time, you know, I was actually getting some pretty cool shit. I had done some commercials and stuff because the way I look, I was actually in a Super Bowl commercial in 2006. So I had an agent, and he was like, "Look, dude, you're not going to be competing anymore in strongman. If they say if you go back, you're going to end up having another back surgery in about a year." He said, "If you want to keep making money and doing what we're doing, you need to get to a different platform." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "You're 34 years old. The only place for you goes pro wrestling." And I was like, "What? Pro wrestling? Holy shit." So I knew nothing about pro wrestling. Just to give you an idea, for all those that you obviously I know now, but when I got into the sport to learn the sports entertainment, I thought to be counted out was a 10 count. That's boxing. So I knew nothing about the sport. Only thing I knew was there were some big jack dudes that I used to watch go down to the wrestling ring. I wasn't really caring what they were doing. I just liked it when they'd flop somebody down and flex their muscles. That's about my extent of watching wrestling. So I went to this place, I went to this school, and I learned how to do it because it's a dance. You know, you're in there, it's predetermined. You know who's going to win, who's going to lose. But you've got to create this dance that tells the story for the audience. So you have to learn to do this without hurting somebody, especially like me. You know, they want to know that I can get in there and I can, you know, act out what needs to happen. So 3 months, I'd go and take this crash course on how to learn this shit. My agent creates a fake resume and gets me a shot in Japan. So now I've basically the end of my last competition in strongman was spring of 2007. I was in Japan in my first pay-per-view wrestling match in the beginning of 2008. So we're talking like a 9-month turn with a back surgery in the middle. Okay. Wow. So most people that know wrestling, you understand that you start off wrestling in high school gyms. You know, you got some crappy little promotion. It's called the indie. I had to do about 6 of those because I needed to get some experience in the ring and I needed some footage so that my agent could send it to Japan. So my seventh ever match was in a pay-per-view in Japan. So anyway, another, you know, again, I'm showing up. I know nothing. I'm scared to death. But again, this fits right into, if you really get what I'm talking about here, I'm constantly putting myself in positions where I scare the shit out of myself because that's where you grow the most. Yeah. When you're scared, you will do more than if you're comfortable. And so I just keep pushing myself. I realize that, hey, you're mentally strong. You can outwork about anybody. Just keep getting yourself into these positions where you're forced to grow. And that's what I did. So I'm in the ring with these guys that have been doing this for 15 years and I don't know shit. And I was scared, but I was in there and I was finding a way to get the job done. So I ended up having a pretty decent career in Japan wrestling. And they, you know, unfortunately, you don't leave, they release you. You know, you're making great money. It's kind of a star lifestyle and all the things that go along with it are great. One year, that end of 2013, they didn't renew me. So I came home and, you know, definitely my tail between my legs. It's hard to give that up. You know, it's hard the feeling you get with walking out into an arena with, you know, 30, 40, 50,000 people it's pretty hard to match that. It's very hard to become domesticated after that. So I had a couple of really rough weeks of getting used to being home. But anyway, so what it's me. I don't know how to do anything else. If I'm not scaring myself, if I'm not challenging myself mentally, I don't know what to do. And so everybody's been telling me I look like a bodybuilder my whole life. Well, once I started lifting weights anyway, not as a fat little boy. So I thought, shit, I guess it's time to try to do bodybuilding. So my last tour of Japan was December 2013. I did my first bodybuilding contest in May of 14. So it was about, March. So we're talking like 4.5, just enough to get a prep in. Win that contest. And it was there I realized, holy shit, you know, the difference between you and the other good amateurs is really different. And so I ended up meeting a guy named Hani Rambod, who is one of the best trainers on the planet. Phil Heath, Jay Cutler's trainer. And he's like, dude, because it was his show. He's the promoter of the show. He's like, dude, this is your first contest. You need to just go get your pro card right now. He said, so there's 2 contests. So I basically, 3 months later, I went and got my pro card. And then it was at that point that I realized that my second ever bodybuilding contest, I earned my pro card, which puts me in a school of people that's very small. I guess there's only about 4 or 5 people on the planet that have ever done that before. But at the time, I didn't know any better. You know, that's sometimes the ignorance is bliss, man. I'm just thinking, God, this is really, really challenging, and it's really testing my grit. So I better buckle down a little harder is what I was thinking the whole time. And so then
you guys listening here.
What's that?
Oh, just the guy. I just want to let him know. I just want to let the audience know that if you guys happen to be just listening to the audio platform podcast and not watching the YouTube video, you know, you guys got to check out Jon. You know, you're a freak, man. I mean, you're huge, and I mean, it's just, you know, the way you're. So you guys listening right now, you guys got to check him out. Look him up. I'll post his Instagram on you know, your Instagram there on the podcast. This way, if they're listening, they can go check you out.
Very cool. I appreciate that, brother. So basically, to kind of bring up to speed, my 3rd ever bodybuilding contest was my pro debut. I podiumed. I placed top 5, which is another really tough challenge. And so I guess now I'm still currently a pro bodybuilder. So I guess really the theme of me, you say, who are you? Because a lot of people will tell you, who are you? I'm a pro bodybuilder. Who are you? I'm a wrestler. Who are you? I'm a no. Who am I? I am a guy that constantly pushes the limits mentally. That's who I am. And that's what I hang my hat on. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. That's what gives me a good night's sleep, knowing that I gave everything I had for the day at whatever I was doing. And, you know, the challenges in life, those are all of them. Every challenge that comes your way, they're the biggest blessings that ever hit you upside the head. Now, granted, the bigger they get, the harder they are to conquer. But as you know, brother, I mean, conquering the real one, I mean, when you're fighting for your life and you win that thing, that's what it's all about. You know, so I got to tell you, you inspire me more than I can tell you, brother. My best friend, he went through it as well. And he beat it. You know, all you guys that are faced with, you know, with something like that, and you beat it, I'll tell you, it makes me feel like a little bitch because I push myself, but pushing yourself for your life is a whole different platform of pushing yourself. And I got to tell you, brother, my hat is off and I'm inspired by you.
Thank you. I owe a lot to my my wife because she you know, and we're still fighting. You know, they found a couple new spots in my lung. I'm going to go to New York City and get that zapped with some radiation. But my wife continues to push me because sometimes, you know, you know, I have that mental toughness, but sometimes I just get in a rut and I'm like, you know, your mind, you just start spiraling, you know, and that's what I do. And so my wife helps me get out of that spiral, you know, you know, so maybe, you know, talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's funny. My wife actually is good for that too, because, you know, I got to tell you, for all of us that have that supporting other half, and whether maybe it's not a wife, maybe it's a best friend, somebody who actually knows you well enough to help you realize that, hey, snap out of this, take that first step again. It's not, you're going to be okay. Because what happens to me is I get so hyper-focused and I drive so hard. What happens is I just kind of, it's almost like it's mental, it's physical, and more importantly, it's spiritual. My spirit, everything is gone, and I just kind of collapse, if you will. And I don't mean physically collapse, but I mean that thing where I can dig down deep. I'm digging, but I'm not able to find the depths of where I need to go. And that's when my wife will tell me, "Hey, you're spinning your wheels, dude. You need to take a day or two down. You know, just do what you want to do, but stop pushing yourself." And I'll tell you, just that little reminder of hey, just take a different step in a direction. It doesn't have to be long. That's what gets me back in. And I'm sure with your wife too, she says, you know, whatever it is, she can spot the fact that you're so close. You just need that one little nudge to go to the right spot to get back on track. And I'll tell you, I think for anybody that is really committing to something with body, mind, and soul, you know, you get to that point where you just kind of exhausted yourself on all levels. And you just need a couple of deep breaths to get it back in check. And then a lot of times, a couple of deep breaths, you know, you're still kind of tired and you may not trust that you can do it again because, I mean, what drives us is not knowing that we can. And then it just takes somebody like our wives to say, hey, yes, you can. You need to get up. You need to take that step. My wife will actually get a frisbee and say, listen, you got to cut this shit out. Get up and get moving here, you know? And but I'll tell you, you know, the thing about it is just remember this. If you can get to the point where you are able to work hard enough and you've got the mental strength to put yourself in that position where what I say is I just kind of work myself into a pile of mush. If you can actually get there, that's a good problem to have because now basically you have to figure out what is your methodology of deload. What do you need to do to get back to square? But that's a good problem to have. That means you've actually worked yourself into the position where you can actually do more than your being is capable of, which means you're maximizing every minute of your life. And that's what it comes down to. I'll tell you. Yeah. I'm a big one on our bodies are a vehicle, right? And it's our spirit that really lives. And the way I see it is the spirit to live, the vehicle needs to be active and moving all over. And you might get a flat tire and, you know, get a bump up, you know, you might bump into something. So when our bodies start to actually, now granted, we want to take care of our bodies. I'm not saying mistreat your body, but when you care for your body and you use it, meaning the vehicle eventually will wear out. So when I die, if my body hasn't been totally used, my vehicle still has life in it. I don't think I really live the way I should. That makes sense. So please don't confuse that message. I'm not saying beat yourself up like a dumb shit. I'm saying take extra good care of yourself. Maintain your vehicle so it will be strong and fast and will go a long, long time. But use that son of a bitch. Your vehicle is what allows you to live life, and your spirit is actually what lives. You know, I'm not trying to get all Gandhi on you. But I actually
we're my wife and I are very spiritual. Yeah,
me too. You know, my degree in college, funny enough, even though I didn't read a fucking book in 5 years, I have a major in theology and a minor in philosophy. So, I think that actually had a little something to do with, you know, with my ideas behind, you know, living to the fullest from three different dimensions. You know, it's mental, it's physical, and it's spiritual. And that's the thing I tell people: when you really commit to something, first it's physical, then it's mental. You develop that mental strength and you get so mentally strong that the spirit will come wrap it all together. Now you're not just lifting weights, you are the weights. It's a different experience when you push yourself all the way in. And like in my book, I talk about, you know, portals where you're like, that's kind of where I really learned to understand myself, was in the squat rack, because I could push myself to a point where I was going into a different state, and it was like pain would start to go away. And even though 10 seconds ago I felt like I was going to die, all of a sudden everything got kind of quiet and became comfortable, but I was still doing the same exact movement. And that's what I call the portal. You only see these things open up once in a while, but when you get an opportunity, man, you dive right into that thing. And it's like you're in this different state, and different state of mind, different state of being. And it's totally killer. But the best part about it is you got to earn your way to that spot, and you can't wait to get back there again. But unfortunately, you can't get to that state every day because it's too vigorous on you physically. But you can't wait to. It's like you know, it's like golf. I'm a terrible golfer, I'll shoot, 150 swings on a golf course, but I'll have one shot that'll bring me back to next time. One good shot. That's all I need. Well, that's the thing with, I can try to get into a portal over and over, and I'm going to be frustrated because I can't do it. But then I get in that one time, maybe once a month or whatever it is, I'll take it, baby. So long and short of it, I got to tell you, if there's a message you're hearing from me, it's push yourself into those uncomfortable places and learn to be comfortable when everybody else around you is shitting in their pants. That's what it's all about. That is life in a nutshell, my world.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So it's so important for, and I think you mentioned this too, like even like the common cold, like just being physical and exercise. And I try to push cancer, people that are going through cancer like me, go through, you don't have to like, I mean, you don't have to like put 400 pounds on a barbell, but I mean, go out there and start with walks until you get strong enough, then start on a bike, then pick up a kettlebell, a dumbbell, and do some strength training. And, you got to start somewhere and just push yourself because it really helps the body and just, the cancer, fight the cancer and everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. I mean, we're resilient creatures. So whatever we push ourselves to do, the body says, okay, that kind of sucked. I better make sure that next time he does that, I'm prepared. So it basically heals and prepares to get ready for that same act. Well, that's why you got to take the next act and go a little bit further than the last time, because then the body's always going to keep running. It's always just going to take one step forward. That's all it is. If you think about it, how do I get a little bit better today than I was yesterday? That is our daily fight. Because 2 days that go by that you don't improve, you're not living. You're not actually doing something that allows your being, your creature, all three states to improve. And so I love that, especially for cancer patients, because obviously the body is from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, and a spiritual standpoint. And you guys have to use your spirits to fight it out. The will to live is a huge part of the battle. Yeah. I mean, you give up that will to live, the will is such a big part of it, and that will part is your spirit,
Yeah. I mean, we don't have a choice. We got to live. We got to fight every day.
Yeah, 100%. Then obviously, eating well gives the body a chance to heal that much faster. So I imagine for all the people you kind of lead that are, inspired by your story, that are fighting cancer as well, having them eat, even just a little bit better than they once were is a huge step in the right direction,
Yeah, absolutely. Because I try, I mean, in the beginning, if you're losing a lot, if you got going through a lot of chemo and the cancer's really bad in the beginning because it's not under control, your body's really catabolic. So like I was eating like anything. I was trying to eat like mac and cheese and just trying to get the calories in, and that was just to maintain my weight. But eventually your body adapts and you don't become as catabolic anymore, fighting the cancer and going to the chemo. And so, you try to watch the sugars because cancer loves the high glycemic index carbs and the sugars.
Yeah.
And the thing about red meat here, and I know you were saying something about you guys get red meat, or like you got a house down in Mexico where they don't have the hormones in the meat, but up here in the US, the cancer patients, we got to be careful with the red meat because it causes inflammation.
Yes, the toxicity in that red meat in the States is brutal. Yeah, because they're putting so much junk. Well, here's the thing. You got this animal and you're giving them all these antibiotics and all these, everything you can think of to get them to grow fast. And what happens is all of that shit that you put in there is toxicity. Well, the toxicity gets stored in the fat cell. Even for humans, we all being stored toxicity in the fat cell. Well, when you're eating some beef that has some fat, you're digesting huge amounts of toxicity. And that's something that, even for a healthy person, large amounts of toxicity is negative, let alone somebody that's going through chemo, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I try to stick with poultry, turkey, ground turkey, things like that. So, but, you know, try to keep, not eat a lot of carbs, although, sometimes you gotta, you have your days where, you gotta get out of your rut because you end up, going to the cupboard and just finding like, what is it? Like comfort foods, it comforts you, but then, then you feel like shit later.
Well,
So.
here, brother, try this, because keep in mind that fat little boy still lives inside of me. And, that comfort thing every time when it's time to go to bed every night, man. Oh, I want something sweet to eat. It's a daily battle I have to fight. And one of the things that I make sure of is that I eat on a very rigid schedule, because if my blood sugar is stabilized through eating every few hours, it is so much easier for me to make the proper choice. It's like they say, don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry. It's because your blood sugar's low and all this shitty food looks so good.
Yeah, right.
You load your cart up with crap. But if you eat a healthy meal and then you go shopping, you make very reasonable choices. So on that level, brother, when you're looking, try to really time your meals, maybe scoot them together a little bit. Because when your blood sugar is stable, I know for me, if I get even a little bit hungry, I'm thinking cookies, I'm thinking ice cream, all the shit I used to use as a fat little boy. So, I literally use an alarm system where I have alarms on my phone. And because I don't ever eat because I'm hungry. Because if I wait till I'm hungry, my blood sugar's already dropped. So I eat because it's time. So basically I eat between every 2 and 2.5 hours. And you don't have to eat a lot. So I'm eating very often. But for me, that's a big one on trying to keep the comfort food away.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then of course it's funny because we, talk about, bowel movements or not necessarily needing fiber, things like that. And, and it's funny because I know you talked about the shredder hole being clean. And I don't know if you ever listen to, Muscle RX, Dave Palumbo, but he would talk about, how like some people, they just got to keep wiping and wiping and wiping until it's like sandpaper, and you really should just have a nice clean poop.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I do acupuncture. And I don't know what it is with the Eastern medicine, but the acupuncture, that's what they focus on too, is just the detox with the little needles and the pressure points. But they're big on the bowel movements, having a stable, clean bowel movement.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Because keep in mind, if you're eating, obviously when you take a dump, it's a pretty direct reflection on what you've been eating. So
yeah.
If you're eating things that are causing your body problems, your body's going to give you problems when you take a dump. If it took a roll of toilet paper to clean up, clearly your body's having a hard time processing something.
Yeah.
But on that level, I wish that I could say I do everything I can to take care of myself. But I've had plenty of those moments where I realize after the first wipe, it's time to go to the shower. I'm not gonna solve this problem with a roll of toilet paper.
Oh yeah. Bottom half, just a quick wash.
That's it. Well, we don't just from the belly button down,
Oh man.
Oh
yeah. So I'd love to dive into a little bit of your book here, Deep Water. At one point you talked about swimming in the river. And then there was a barge and you had to there was a point where you either had to turn around or you couldn't turn around, or
so
you just had to get back to
that's really what it is that that story is kind of really one of those moments that happens to you that at the moment you have kind of an epiphany, but you don't really realize how powerful it was until you start to see behavior patterns in your life develop from that. It was kind of like, I'm swimming across and I'm realizing, okay, I'm in this place right now where I need to get out of the way of this barge. And if I don't continue to go, I have to continue to the other side or I'm going to get hit by this son of a bitch. And you don't think you can do it. That's the problem. I'm ready to turn around because it was actually shorter to get back to my dock to say, you know, if there was no barge, I could have gone back easily, but the barge is coming in the path where I have to keep going. And because the far side of the river was kind of shallow, so he couldn't go over there. He had to go by my dock. So I was, but not shallow enough that it was going to save my life. So I was forced to keep going. And really what it comes down to is this. You think you can't until you can. And it's literally, you know, I love it when, well, people say that can't be done. Well, as soon as the first person does it, they won't say that anymore. You know?
Right.
Because our world is filled with limitations that are put upon us by what people say or what we think is possible. When in actuality, we don't know what's possible. We don't know what's possible until we're put in a position where we truly have to give everything we have to figure out what is possible. And when you think you're going to get fucking run over by a barge, you figure out real quickly what you're capable of, which was to basically commit and keep going. You know, I didn't think I was going to make it, but I got a better chance swimming for the other side than I do going back in and letting that son of a bitch run me over, you know? So, you know,
gosh,
and that right there, that's my deep water philosophy is exactly it. You're swimming out and you're out. There's nothing to grab a hold of. You know, you've really got to be able to swim full bore, knowing that there's no place to hold on to, but also knowing that you're going to be okay because you're going to give it everything you got. And out there in that deep water, there's something for you. And you're never going to figure out what it is unless you've got the fucking nuts to get out there and take the risk. And don't get me wrong. I'm not promoting anybody to do something that potentially could take their own lives here. That's not the message. You know, I'm not saying go to the nearest beach and try to swim to China. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying that we all run into circumstances where we're told or we think it's not possible. And until you do it, it will be impossible until you do it. I mean, our whole existence is filled with somebody doing something for the first time. That could be any one of us.
Yeah, there's I hear there's this, I'm on these cancer forums on Facebook, things like that for support, things like that. But, in that deep water where I've been through like 20 chemo treatments and, there's been times when I was going through my 4th and 5th chemo and I'm like, man, this sucks, but you know what? You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to live. And, there's other people that I see on there that I got to push because they're like, they've only gone through like 4 treatments. And not, I mean, I have, empathy for them. Of course, I've been through it, but I mean, it's like, and they want to quit already. And it's like, sometimes you got to stop whining, even though you got a bad diagnosis and you got a bad adversity. Sometimes you got to stop whining and just, fight and just dig deep down a little longer. And it does tend to get a little easier. And then sometimes even for me, 20 rounds seem nothing because I've got, other friends that I've met that have cancer that's gone through like 50, 60 rounds so far. And here I'm thinking, holy cow, talk about, I'm not in deep water yet. I'm like in the middle end by the rope of the pool and they're in the freaking deep end, No,
and that's, when it comes down to it, we all can be leaders to other people because until you've actually had someone help you understand that you can, you believe that you can't. And I think in our society today, there's way too many ideas and restrictions put upon us as we start to grow up. There's no reason, when you're a little kid, I want to be an astronaut. Well, guarantee you keep telling people that, you're going to end up having some fucking dipshit adult tell you, oh, that's not going to be possible. Well, if we turn that around and we were constantly telling our youth, yes, you can, we'd have a very different society. We're programming our kids to believe that they can't, you know, going back to, you know, kind of a funny side note with me, I was just dumb enough to believe that I could. But no, that's got to be a great help, brother, for you being able to kind of lead by example for these other people who are not, you know, they're not fortunate enough to have the mental strength that you have in the beginning of the journey, and they have to develop it while they're fighting cancer. So that's my hat's off to you, bro. Like I said, you inspire the shit out of me, you know?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a, like on your book, page 12, there was you were talking about save nothing for tomorrow because there will never be another today. And I think that's great. You know?
Yeah. No, I find myself often looking at what I'm doing today. And, you know, keep in mind, there's always certain things that are not time sensitive that, okay, I'm going to put this to tomorrow. But I start to be really careful with what I'm not going to do today, because if it matters today, I have to do it, because otherwise, you know, it's like what ends up happening is you end up having this life of tomorrow. Well, today is where the money is, you know, I mean, preparation for tomorrow is today, you know, and making sure that, you know, the tail end of my day, I got to check this out, brother. I'm old school as a motherfucker. I got this book and I write in this book every single day. This is, you see all the shit that's written in there? That's all the stuff. And I got this one is 2021, of course. I got these all the way back to 1993 and I have them on a shelf and I can go back and I can look. And I've been doing this my whole fucking life. And at the end of every day, I page forward to tomorrow and I look at what's already there and I look at what I need to accomplish and I realize, okay, what is it I need to prepare tonight to make sure that my tools are already laid out on the workbench when I wake up tomorrow, you know?
Wow, you know, that's great. Yeah.
It's kind of like the kid that was always worried about trying to, you know, progress. I'd go as far as to lay out my shoes, my socks, my underwear. I laid out my clothes. I did whatever I could. This was me just trying to just, you know, keep in the game, so to speak. I was just trying to get C's. I was just trying to keep my head above water. I had to plan ahead for tomorrow as a 10-year-old to make sure that I could possibly keep my head above water. And that's, again, all of those shortcomings is what makes you every like for you, brother, going through what you're going. I'm so sorry you are, but I'm telling you, at the end of all this, there's so many silver linings. Look at all the people you're helping. Look at how much more you value every minute of your life. You know, it's like there's
absolutely
even something as terrible as cancer. You know, when you overcome that adversity, you know, it's like there's just something there that's, you know, all of our challenges turn out to be a blessing somehow. You just can't sit down and cry about them. You got to work through them.
Right. Yep. Yep. And it takes time too, because I know you were talking about in your book, you were talking about like, what is the next level of pain? You would ask the universe. It's not about who's strong now, right? It's about who's strong after, you know, 10 more sets, of course, but in life or chemo, it's like, no, it's like, how strong are you going to be a year from now going through, you know, your radiation or going through, 20 more rounds of chemo? That's what it is. You keep digging deep, you know?
Yeah. Because, you know, if you think about, you know, in all different walks of life, and you can call it profession, sports, you name it, you know, there's these people that you may make, let's refer to them as flash in the pan. They show up strong and they make a big wave and they do something, but they can't hold the pace together long enough to stick in there. Well, the flash in the pan syndrome is probably what kills, I shouldn't say kill, is what really stops most people, because you've got to get to that pace and you've got to be able to carry it to get really good at something. You can't get to the highest level of something for a minute and expect to be great. That means you had a moment. You got to get there and you got to find a way to stay there, you know? And what's the saying? Like 10,000 hours to be great at something. Well, that just gets you to the level, but now you got to exist there, you know? So that saying is misunderstood. 10,000 hours just gets you a taste. That's your hors d'oeuvre. That's your down payment. Now, this is where the work comes in. All you did was you just got your nose over the top of the wall. Now you got to get your leg over and you got to stay up there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. Huh. Yep.
But that's
right.
a great
Absolutely.
point, brother. That's a really good point. It's you know, it's so multifaceted, you know. It's not just about doing this, having a good day. It's about finding ways to string all of these good days together. And in your case, it's life or death, you know?
Yeah. Like you talk about, you got to be uncomfortable to be at your best. I mean, it's, nothing's, it's going to come easy. And even going through, any adversity, it's, it's going to be uncomfortable, but, you got to be, it's not going to be easy, but you want to be at your best. You got to force, you talked about force to adapt to extreme levels of stress. You got to adapt to it,
Absolutely. You know, and when I coach people with with nutrition, and that's one of the things that comes up often is people are always, they're worried that I'm going to make them do what I did. But that's one thing that I want to make sure real clear is that everybody has their own path. You know, if someone comes to me and their goal is to lose 100 pounds of body fat, I'm going to create something that's great for them. Because keep in mind, everybody's level of greatness is within themselves. No two people have the same exact place that they're going to be great. That's what makes humans we're so individualized. You might have two people that are similar in greatness, but nobody's going to be the same. And when it comes to, because nutrition is really the backbone of everything I've ever done. If you take away my deep water method nutrition, you take away this whole podcast. All the things I did existed because of that. But I want to make sure that I'm real clear with everybody out there. Just because it's the way that I did it doesn't mean it's the best way for you. And especially if I'm going to be helping you, we're going to find your own version of deep water because everybody's formula is specific to them. And to become the best version of yourself is what we're talking about here. Because I always want to make sure, going back to, my journey, I didn't compare myself to others because I wasn't standing in line with them. And when you compare yourself to others, that means your focus is in the wrong spot. So it's really important that you really spend your time focusing on yourself and not comparing yourself to somebody else, because you're never going to be the best version of yourself looking at somebody else.
Yeah. There's no like cookie cutter, no easy formula. It's, it's individualized, it's for you. And I mean,
and the best part about it is, once you become the best version of yourself, it's the game that never ends, because you get to be the best version of yourself. Well, guess what? If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be yet again the best version of yourself. Oh, and if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get better again. And it's just this thing that you never, ever get to, it's that there's really no finish line. And that's what I love about self-improvement, is that once you get to a certain spot, all you want to do is look for the next place to go. I say to people often when they ask me questions about my journey, well, what about this? They ask me questions about, compare this to that. And I tell them, I say, I don't really look back. I don't reflect unless I'm trying to figure out what I did wrong. Because if I'm looking back, I'm trying to figure out how not to make the same mistake again. Because looking forward is where life is. If you're looking back, you're trying to solve a problem so you don't do that to yourself again. Perfect. But other than that, look forward.
Right.
You know, what does tomorrow hold? What are you trying to, how do you become the best version of yourself tomorrow? And you break it down. Tomorrow I can be better than I was today. How do I do it? You know, maybe like you talked about, some of these guys are taking walks. Well, tomorrow I'm going to walk 1 more minute than I walked today. Perfect. That's a great step. It doesn't have to be a big step, as long as you take a step every day.
And then, you know, and like you said about looking back, you know, there's an old saying, and I don't know who said it, but, you know, don't look back. You're not going that way, you know, forward.
Yeah. 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 No, it's very true. You know, and the thing about it is, I suppose there will come a time when, you know, maybe I'm not able to be quite as active and I need to sit down more because, you know, it's just because I'm 85 years old. You know, I'll probably have fun talking to my grandkids about some of those things. But, you know, until then, you know, I'm going to keep living my life to the fullest moving forward, you know. You know, just the thing about it is this: I want all of you guys to know that you can inspire people just like you get inspired. You know, if I'm in the gym and I see somebody, maybe they don't know what they're doing, maybe they're not strong, but I can see they're giving it all they got. That inspires the hell out of me. So I really want everybody to realize that everybody can inspire everybody. And if we all stayed inspired, we would be a whole different race, you know?
I know. Yep. Yep. What you put out in the universe comes back to you. The universe listens.
That's it.
You know?
That's it. You throw a turd out there, that turd's going to come back and hit you when you least expect it.
I love that. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Man, at one point you were talking about running upstairs and the burn and the mental toughness. Talk a little bit about that, because that's tough, man. Doing exercising upstairs like that.
Well, ultimately, the stairs came into play because where I used to live is 150 steps, and it had one small landing in between. So it's a shitload of steps. Just to give everybody a heads up, if you're someone who's fast, like going uphill, I was actually extremely fast. I could damn near run the same speed uphill that I can run flat ground because my legs are powerful. The incline doesn't really bother my speed. So somebody like myself, full tilt, running up those things, going to take about 25 seconds. Someone that's slower is going to be closer to 30. Okay, so now putting that into a mode of like on a track, you know, you're run. That's like a 250 meter sprint. That's how long it would take you. You know, just to give you an idea of how long you're sprinting. Wow. But you're going uphill, so it feels a lot more intense. And so basically these steps had become quite, everybody would go train them, and it would be like, who can do it the most times? And because look, what happens is you do it 5 or 6 times and your legs turn to jelly and you just can't continue. You can walk them holding on to the railing, but your legs give out. And so again, I just went to these steps and started busting my ass. And next thing you know, I'm going so fast up these things. I'm passing people, and I would bring people there to train with me. And I would usually bring 2 people because I'd rotate them, you know? So what I would do is I would always send somebody up about 5 seconds before me, and then I would try to catch them because that would push me. But I have to bring 2 people a lot of times because the one person couldn't continue at the pace I needed to go. But anyway, one time we're there training, and this guy shows up, and he's in this full-blown like Nike sweatsuit, the new shoes, the headband, and he's got this little thing of his, hey, can I train with you? And I said, yeah, but here's the deal. If you're training in my group, you can't quit, because quitting is really, I don't want someone that's going to quit. I don't care if you're having trouble, but you can't quit, because for me to do what I need to do, I need to be inspired. And when everybody's working hard, I'm inspired. When someone quits, it's like quitting is like the first cancerous cell. it starts to spread.
Yeah. It's
And
like
so,
negative energy.
yeah. And so this guy, he realized he was in it kind of over his head early on, but he kept going. Anyway, we get to the top, and I was probably the 10th or 11th time, and he was really hurting, and he just literally, it was like somebody just turned his lights out, turned the switch off. He like collapsed and started rolling down the steps like loose limb.
No.
Yeah, like I was like, holy shit. And that day I had my daughter with me. She was like 18 months, and I had a buddy of mine that was just holding her, when I was running. And I was like, dude, turn her around, because I didn't want her to see. She's so little. I just didn't want her to see. I didn't know what was happening. I told my other buddy, I'm like, dude, you got to go wake him up, So I was kind of doubled over breathing. I was in a, anyway, so it goes down and gets this guy, grabs him. He's still, head to the side, sleeping. And so my buddy slaps him.
Wow.
And so he didn't wake up. So the second I said, you got to do it harder, So my buddy raises his hand back, and the guy comes to. But anyway,
wow.
he had this knot coming out of the side of his head, because somewhere along the lines he must have cracked the side of his head on one of these cement steps. But anyway, that's just it just kind of shows you, when you come into a situation, where, mentally he was committed, but physically he just hadn't quite.
He was committed, yeah.
But that's the moments like that is kind of what tells you, okay, you're doing the right thing, doing this on your own, because this guy was a pretty good runner, as I understand it, but he wasn't conditioned enough to do the way I was doing it, But yeah, those stairs were brutally painful. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times, pretty much everybody that goes those steps the first time throws up. You sprint to the top once, you come back down, wow. You do it a second time, just about everybody will throw up, because it's so much pain so fast.
Gosh, sounds awful. But the mind, like you said, the mind is so much stronger than the body. So you can definitely, dig deep and push yourself for anything.
Yeah. And I think that cat that passed out, I kept chasing him up behind him. So I think, mentally he was probably a little scared, which when you're scared, you'll do what you normally wouldn't do. And then physically it just was enough to the point where his body said, okay, I got to check out for a minute.
He probably didn't want to look like a pussy in front of you. So he's like, I got to keep going. And then
when it comes down to it, I got to say, I mean, because we sat there with him and got him feeling good, and we laughed like hell. And I commended him. I said, dude, you physically, you went far, mentally, you went physically than you could, physically. And, that, so it's, when someone gives it up like that's inspiring. Of course, I would rather he didn't get the big knot in his head.
Yeah.
But somebody pushes hard enough to throw up. Somebody pushes hard enough to fall down. Somebody pushes hard enough to pass out. I mean, I've done all of them before, and it's really, when it comes down to it, it's a badge of honor,
Yeah, we need those connections with people, and in order to help each other, push each other, and dig deep. There's too much of this negativity going on, and everybody just put a little bit more positive stuff out and tried to connect with people they didn't even know, you don't even know in the world. It'd be a nicer place to live.
Yeah, very true. It's just going back, we're saying about the universe. You pump positivity into the universe, you're going to get positivity back. And if everybody was doing that, we wouldn't have so much negative shit flying around.
Yep.
Because, it's like I said, you throw a turd into the universe, a turd's going to come back and hit you. Well, the problem we have is everybody's dodging turds because you're dodging somebody else's turd. There's too many turds floating around out there.
Somebody else.
Everybody needs to stop throwing turds into the universe. We'll be okay.
Well, sometimes I got to step back too. I try to, help out anybody that I can to listen, that's got cancer and stuff like that. But, we're all human. We're not, we're not robots or Superman. mind. So sometimes I got to step back and try to refocus on me
Yeah.
to be stronger. So then I can take, because if it's like when you're helping somebody else out and you're going through something yourself, it puts weight on your
Oh
shoulders,
yeah,
and you start to feel heavier. So
totally.
sometimes I gotta like take that weight off a little bit, focus on me, and then and then I'm able to refresh, take the weight back on my shoulders and help them. So
Yeah. And that,
yeah,
I'll tell you, brother, that principle, that theory right there, that's kind of, if enough people would do that like you're doing, we'd have a much better, we'd have a better place to live, because ultimately, you know, like what you're doing is something that is, you're giving to others, you're helping others, even though it's hard on you, you're still doing it. And that's a great thing.
yeah,
It's missed. So I commend you for that. That's especially in your battle. It's like you're taking away from your own
thanks.
survival to give to somebody else, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we should share our stories and share our experiences, and that's when we can relate to when somebody else can relate to your own story, um or something that you went through even in the past that you're not going through right now. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
powerful for that, for the other person, for.
Yeah, no, I totally
So
agree. I mean,
absolutely.
sometimes the little bit of help that you gave somebody might totally change the trajectory of their life, and that's something that we all need to
Yeah,
realize, that sometimes it doesn't take much for us to do to help send somebody in a better pathway of life. And that right there is a powerful thing, you know?
yeah, it's like good karma too, because it's like I need that too. I need somebody, and watching your previous podcast and your channel, and you taking the time to do this and listening to your stories really, re-inspires back to me and helps me keep pushing forward. So I got to thank you, definitely. I mean,
Well,
that's what it's about. I can't just do it myself. So
it's a positive
yeah,
vortex.
a circle, right? Yeah.
It's like we just keep passing it around. You inspire me, I inspire you, and as that vortex gets bigger and more people become involved, you just can't stop it. That's what we need. You got to live inside those positive vortex. You keep all the positive people around you. And sometimes it's kind of interesting point. You sometimes you'll come across of saying a person will come across a negative person, right? And I've really tried to, in the last couple of years, make it a point to try to if someone, especially on social media, people come in
Oh,
and just chew me up, man. And I'll just say, hey, I'll say, the things that they'll say are so horrifying. I mean, just not nice, and I'll just say, hey, are you okay? Why are you so angry? And usually they'll keep coming back with stuff, but it's
right.
getting less every time. And then in many cases, they'll end up saying, they'll ask me a friendly question. And I say, hey, I'm good. How are you? How's this going? It's like sometimes people hide behind that negativity. They don't know how good being positive can be. They don't realize the reception they're going to give by giving somebody a compliment rather than saying something negative. And
Yeah, they don't self-reflect.
yeah,
So by you saying that to them
yeah,
makes them eventually self-reflect on what they were doing.
yeah. And it's like I realize, God, every time I get a chance to help somebody kind of flip their perspective, and rather than throwing out negativity so they feel safe, they're going to, once they realize how good it feels and how positive it is to throw out something nice, and they're going to get a much better reception. It's like, man, if I can help as many of those people as I can, it doesn't always work, unfortunately. Sometimes they'll just keep
No.
throwing shots, and I'll just say, hey, listen, you know, my channel is about inspiring people. And if you throwing punches at me makes you feel better today, then I'll be your punching bag. you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, unfortunately, there's like not just people we don't know, but like even friends or people in our circle, maybe not necessarily like good, close friends, but like, acquaintances or, and sometimes you just have to, if you can't help them out and they're just too damn negative,
Yeah.
I got to block them out. It doesn't help me. I need
Yeah.
to circle people around me that are positive, have the same mentality as I do.
Yeah, for
you know?
sure. It's very true. I mean, when my first real big step forward with that mentality was when my first daughter was born. And that's when I realized, okay, this is not just about me anymore, and number one, I need to take everything I'm doing. I need to do it better because I need to be a good role model. But number two, I need to get all of the parts of my life that are not positive out because I'm going to be exposing her to negativity. And I'll tell you, brother, at that point in my life, I was in my kind of later 20s. A good chunk of my friends I had to kind of disconnect from. It was kind of sad, but I realized it's what made me realize that they weren't good for my life anyway, because I had to, I was forced to make a choice. And when you make a choice, you start to really look on both sides of the fence, and I'm a big believer in that. You have to keep your circle positive because that negativity just it's like a virus. It gets in there and it grows, and next thing you know, the whole damn circle is corruptly negative, and you just you can't even let it start,
Yeah, we got to shut it out. So you got you and your wife doing a bodybuilding show at the end of the year or something?
Yeah, we're supposed to.
Is that what I heard on Mark Bell's podcast?
Yeah, we're supposed to be competing at the end of the year. I'll be totally honest. I'm really fighting to get the stability in my life to make sure, because keep in mind, I compete in the open division at the IFBB, which that means I'm 49. These guys are 20 years younger than me. So having a prep, you have to have the stability. When I need stability, I'm talking about Groundhog Day. Every day has got to be the same for like 4 months, because that's what allows you just to take those little bitty steps forward in your physique every day. And we just moved into a new place and we're having a guest house built and they're digging a pool in the backyard. So all this stuff was supposed to be done so that I could start my prep. And it's like, holy shit, I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to be able to do it. Because keep in mind, the one thing that, a person has to look at realistically is, do you have the platform that you need to be successful? If you don't, you got to create the platform. And, for a bodybuilding show, that patch of life that's about 4 months that's fairly interruption free is the platform that's necessary. So I'm in the mode right now of moving down the path, hoping that I get the stability I need just in time. But worst comes to worst, we found a show that's later in the year, so we may end up doing it in December. Worst comes to worst, it'll have to be spring of next year, which really pains me because for me, having a goal is what everything's about. And so I'm moving down the path with the idea that, yes, everything is going to be on track. And one thing that was really hard for me as a pro athlete was to realize, okay, being a pro also means recognizing if you're not ready. Does that make sense? As an amateur or a hobby,
have the discipline to understand that, right?
Yeah, as a hobby sportster or an amateur, you're just competing to get better and competing for the experience. As a pro, pro is kind of an interesting term, because it means you're professional enough to register that you have to understand if this is going to be a positive move for your career as a pro. It's like, sometimes you can, like, I remember once I competed with many injuries over the course of my career. But as a pro, I had to realize, okay, is the possible consequence worth the risk, And so there's all of these things as a pro, you have to really look at situations differently. It was when you're younger and you say, I'm going to do this, and you just go full speed until you do it. I was very accustomed to that. As a pro, it was very hard for me to realize, God, you know what? You've got to pull the hamstring. You need to call the promoter and tell them you're not going to be at your best. And that's a hard thing to do. You know, this one is even worse because I'm not injured. I just don't know if I'm going to have what I need to be at my best. And as a bodybuilder, you hear all bodybuilders say, you know, I was at my best. That's the goal. And if you know you can't be at your best, then you have to start to realize, okay, maybe this isn't the right move. But I don't know that I can't not be in my best, so I'm moving down the path. So it's difficult to make that decision, but again, as a pro, it's sometimes you got to make decisions that are difficult, you know?
Yeah. Well, you're, you know, at 49 years old, man, you're pretty freakish yourself. So, you know, your tries and your traps and your back, it's just, you know, unbelievable, you know, and that's what they say, I guess, you know, it tries, you know, you want your arms big. They say triceps, right? 2/3 of your arm
That's it, baby. That's it. Look at that.
Your tries, not your buys. So yeah. Yeah. Your side profile is like, that's all you see is this. So,
yeah, and the thing about it too,
I got to get my muscle back.
Well, you know, the thing about building muscle, brother, is that again, it comes down to that every day. You know, you just make those little steps forward. And at 49 years old, I can't calculate the days, but there's a lot of days where if you're just taking these little steps forward, those are a lot of little steps. And if your diet is on point, I mean, I help people all the time with my dieting coaching. People come to me at 40, they'll come to me at 50, and I'll get them in the best shape of their whole life. Age is just really kind of a number. You allow it to be something that holds you back. You don't have to. If you have the proper information about how your body works, you can really go a long way with getting in the best shape of your life pretty much at any age.
The older I get, it seems like it's tougher to have trust in that, or not trust in that, but almost like to have that mentality. And and obviously I lost, having 2 recent surgeries, abdominal surgeries, I lost a lot of muscle, but muscle memory, I'll get it back. I'm actually 3 more days before when I'm off my weight restriction for my last surgery, so I can go back to doing some pulls and some heavy weights again. But I mean, I'm 45, but like you said, hey, we could still grow and diet, right?
And it's thing is like this, even in our 40s, gaining muscle is like it's like being a kid, and you can only see, it's like you put a little bit of change in a piggy bank. Well, as an adult, maybe when you're a kid, you can save a quarter every day building muscle. Well, as you get older, you can still build the muscle, but you only get to put a nickel in there. So you can't miss a day. And I'm not talking about training every day. I'm talking about your diet has to be on point all the time. Otherwise, you're not, because you only can put 35 cents in there every week. So if you're off 3 days, you only made 20 cents progress. That's not a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Wow, that's a great way to look at it. Yep, absolutely. Wow, I like that.
So I always say that when I coach people over 40, did you get your nickel today? Because it's all about getting your nickel. Did you save your nickel today? There's a lot of things that
don't wait till tomorrow.
Saving that
get it
nickel,
in today.
But did you save your nickel? That's the simple question. It's not really, the act of saving the nickel. It's your hydration. It's your meal timing. It's all the thing, your sleep, all the things it takes to save that nickel. And the saving the nickel is symbolic of building muscle. You can only build 1/5 of what you could build when you're 25, but you can still build it. But if you don't save your nickel every day, you don't ever see the piggy bank grow.
And, and that it doesn't just apply to adding muscle. I mean, that applies to, us, if we're taking chemo and we're fighting cancer, it's like, every day is so important, to get a little bit more physical activity and to get your diet in point, and not to, because you constantly get, knocked down on your ass, and then you got to get back up again. Or you might find a scan has, you got more tumors, or they got to change your chemo, or they got to do this, or you got to have surgery. You got to be ready. You got to do it every day. You got to be ready, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One of the things that I always try to remind myself, kind of goes right off what you said, is, how much can I take and still take my step forward? Because you really got to knock me down on my ass hard for me not to get up and still find a way to take my step forward. I got to take my step. I mean, something has got to knock me down hard enough that I did not make it back to my feet that day. And if you think about it, you can get knocked on the ground, and hell, you could stay down there and cry like a little bitch for an hour if you needed to. Get back to your feet and start moving again. There's nothing wrong with having a good cry. There's nothing wrong with venting frustration. Right. There's nothing wrong with, just whatever it takes, going outside and screaming or, throwing something, whatever it is. Just don't do another human being. But the point is, whatever it is, whatever you had to do, get it done and get back to your feet and find a way to take your forward step.
That's great. Yeah, that applies to us, definitely. Yeah, get the cry out, but you got to get back up and you got to get back in there, and don't wait until, a couple days from now or, lay in bed crying. Just take 20 minutes, take the hour, take the couple, 2 hours, whatever it's going to take, and then fucking grind back up again.
And brother, I'll tell you, and I speak from my own experience, but I'm guessing you probably have something similar. I've had so many situations where whatever it was, I was overwhelmed and I just felt like I wasn't getting what I was trying. And that frustration and the overwhelm was kind of just kicking my ass. And I can remember sitting on the end of, like, it happened mostly to me when I was on the road, like hotel rooms. I would sit at the end of a hotel room bed and I would just 15 minutes, just cry it out. Sometimes I'd even put the pillow in my face so I could really let it go and I wasn't scaring whoever's in the next room, And when you get that out of there, it gets intense and then it goes away. You have such clarity.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I needed that. Don't run away from that. Sometimes it's just letting the pressure out. The pressure that couldn't quite, couldn't let a little off the top. and you're going to feel so much better.
Yep.
The silent scream.
Yeah, because holding it in is just not good.
Yeah, and you let that stuff out. You have that ultimate clarity, and then you start to realize, God, what I was looking for was right in front of me. I just couldn't see it because I was a little overwhelmed.
I can definitely, remember a lot of days like that. So, yeah.
And I'll tell you, we're men, but men cry. I cry like a little bitch all the time.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that,
No. Yep. You gotta, absolutely. We're all human, whether we're men or women or, and I tell you, oh my gosh, these women cancer fighters are strong, and sometimes I got to say they're stronger than us men. It is unbelievable. Some of the friends that I've made that work out and do CrossFit and just get through the chemo and every day. And then you've got, guys that are just, poor me. I don't want to talk about it. I'm just gonna, sit on the couch.
Well, brother, check this out. That's the same thing I tell when I'm coaching. A lot of times a husband will say, hey, my wife, can you work with women too? And I'll say, yes, I can, but I need to tell you something. You need to understand this before we start with her. Just by the way she's created to procreate. She is a more adaptable creature than you are. She's a more adaptable creature than I am. So when she starts whooping your ass, don't come to me crying. Yeah. Because women by design are tougher creatures than men. I mean, they can adapt faster. They're designed to procreate. We can't. We don't have that design. We don't have that ability to bounce back like they do. That women, I mean, check this out, brother. My wife, you've seen her. She's a tough little chick. I mean, she's pretty, she's like a 5'2" version of myself. She gave birth with no medicine, just straight up grinding out through the pain. I'm like, woman, you are nuts, man. But for her, it was just one of those things where she thought, they used to do it, back in time. You know, they'd have you bite a spoon, or they give
Sure.
you a couple of drinks of whiskey. Hell, I can do it too. So she gave birth with no drugs, with no painkillers, no epidural.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
and the fact that you can have a female that gets this big in the stomach at the end of her term, and then 2 months later is flat as a board. I mean, they're just by design. Women, I'm telling you, I'm sure in the world you're talking about with chemo, they probably spin circles around the men.
Oh yeah, I can't give you women a lot. Wow, a lot of credit, because you guys do. You recover faster, whether it's from workouts or whether it's from chemo or whatever it is, and your pain thresholds are much higher than you can adapt, and more than men can. We're little cry bitches, so
yeah. That's it. That's exactly right. And I'll tell you, it's when it comes down to it, the fact that we know that makes us better males,
Yep. Yep. I'm sure our wives appreciate what we're saying right now too. So
that's it.
Yeah. We give them a lot of credit. Definitely. Well-deserved credit to them. So
yes,
absolutely. All right. Well, you got any other insight or anything you want to add?
Well, I would just say for everyone out there, because I know some of your listeners are fighting the same battle you are, and some of your listeners are just wanting to be inspired. And the thing that I want to leave everybody with is you as a person are so much more capable than you understand, because our world has been programming people to believe that they can't do things. And unfortunately, they've lied to us. They've convinced us that we can't, when we absolutely can.
Yep.
And any of you people out there may be the first to do something that before you did it was thought to be impossible. And I just want everybody to know that we all have greatness within us, and we all have the ability to do whatever we want to do. You just have to be, you just got to kind of have that, be fearless enough to take the first step and get in the shit. Because once you're in the shit, you start to grow. Once you start to grow, now the game is on. And once you're growing, just keep that growth pattern going. And next thing you know, you're going to be a whole different creature. Not saying there's anything wrong with you now. Just saying that personal growth comes through discomfort. Personal growth comes through putting yourself in situations you didn't know you can handle. And here's the thing. Last part of what I'm saying is, we all fail. You will fail. I've failed thousands and thousands of times, tens of thousands of times. And here's why. Failure is an absolute part of success. You cannot be successful without failure in your equation. Failure is a necessary part of success. So if you're one of these people, and I was,
absolutely,
who's afraid to take the first step because you're afraid of failure, in actuality, failing is what's going to help you start to grow. So just remember that. It's okay to fail. Now, don't accept failure. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to fail. Fight like hell. But when you fail,
right,
that is part of the equation. It is not, if you're failing and you're still going, that's the difference. There's a definition, two different types of people. One guy falls on his face and he quits. The other guy falls on his face, he gets up and he does it again. And he'll continue to do it again. The guy that stays on the ground is a loser. The guy that gets back to his feet is a winner. We're not talking about games here. We're not talking about medals. We're talking about the way you live your life. Are you a winner or are you a loser? And all you got to do to be a winner is stand up. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's great. Wow. And for all those people that are listening to, and we take this too. Don't like John said about following in line. Don't follow in line. Go, make your own path. When you listen to some of these doctors, and they're kind of like on autopilot, and they'll just treat you. They're not going to fight the cancer with you. and they say, like they told me in the beginning, you only got 2 years to live, chemo for life, you're inoperable. Well, you know what? I got operated on, and I'm not doing chemo for life. I'm actually, fighting through this, and hopefully by October I'll be no evidence of the cancer left. And but you just have to just get, keep finding other doctors, make your own path, and fight, and don't just listen to one guy, or two guys, and stand in line. Oh, well, he must know what he's talking about, he's a doctor, because some of them just, they're just on autopilot.
Yeah.
So,
brother, that's good
I
shit
just
right
wanted to
there.
put that out there.
Love it, man. Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. I got to tell you, man, I'm so appreciative coming on here. I got to tell you, man, I'm charged. I'm tomorrow. I'm already looking to plan tomorrow. I'm so fired up,
That's awesome.
So thank you for the inspiration.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to be on the show. It's awesome. So I'll put your Instagram on the link of the podcast and the YouTube videos. You guys check it out. And yeah. All right. We'll see you guys on the next show.
From the Cancer Sucks Studios, that is a wrap. Check us out in future episodes of our podcast and be sure to subscribe. But before we go, just want to give a shout out to all the admirable and devoted caregivers out there. Until next time, stay strong. We got this.
Because every once in a while, the lion has to show the jackals who he is.